Hey guys, what follows is an interview with Kevin Van Den Elzen. He's a fantastic drummer based in LA, and he is a Timothy Roberts Cymbals artist. I've just recently taken on a handful of guys that I'm really proud to be working with. And Kevin is someone I've known for many years. We have a super interesting discussion, so check it out. Let me know what you think. Also, one more note, the audio on my end was super rough for some reason. I had my AirPods in and I guess the mic is blown. But thankfully, Kevin does most of the talking, so enjoy. Kevin Van Den Elzen, thank you for joining me on this little video.
Yeah.
We're here just to talk about endorsements a little bit, talk about cymbal sounds. I, with Timothy Roberts Handcrafted Cymbals, have very recently decided to take on a few artists, and it's a different type of artist program. And you and I have known each other for years. I got to come see you at that recording session in LA a few years back, which was awesome. And you've played my cymbals. How many years has it been? It's like 4.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, yeah, three and a half, I would say.
3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you, like, big thank you to you, because you got me connected with Hans Decker, and which was killer. I mean, that was like such an honor, and he came to the shop and I got to like see him play. I mean, talk about like the epitome of class and classiness and just unbelievable touch and feel. I was incredibly inspired by hearing him.
I wish I was there. He sent a picture of you guys linking up, and I was like, oh man, I'm just living vicariously through you.
Yeah. I had like 25 cymbals that I had made, sort of thinking in that vein of what he does. And I mean, it was amazing to watch him just stick on the cymbal, and he knew within like 2 hits.
Yeah.
Just, yep. Nope. Not this. Too dark. Too bright. Not the right weight. And it was just, and it was like he zoned in very fast.
Yeah.
What he liked. And that was something that was very educational, and just in terms of, I think cymbal weights and kind of the trends that are popular now are not necessarily what drummers of the past have used. Like we can think that some of our heroes played thinner, wobblier, darker cymbals than they actually did, and like that. Hearing him play was like he was choosing stuff that was like more medium, sometimes medium heavy weights for the cymbals, and he plays very. He's got like a delicate sensibility. Obviously, he can drive the big band, the WDR big band. He can obviously drive the bus if he needs to, but there's a real sensitivity that he has.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like another what's the way of saying it? Like another encouraging interaction towards like where gigging cymbals, like what the best kind of cymbal sounds really are when you're talking about playing music.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know like your approach with music in general. You could be as broad as you want, and then like what you look for in cymbals, and why certain cymbals stick out to you and what you're trying to hear.
Yeah. First and foremost is that when I try out a cymbal, or what I want in a cymbal, is that it's both good in a small group and in a big band, so that I can use it in both situations, and that I don't have to think about which cymbal is not good for either of the two. So it means that it has to be able to. It needs to have a couple of sensibilities. Like it needs to be projecting enough and heavy enough that it can carry an 18-piece big band, but that it also can be more controlled, that it can fit in like a piano trio, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it has a very large dynamical range. But that I can control that dynamical range with not that much effort, because I should be the person who plays the cymbal, and the cymbal shouldn't play me, pretty much. So that's pretty much what I'm looking for in a cymbal. And then sound wise, well, now I have about like 12 cymbals of yours, including crashes and the China that you see over here. But what's cool for me now is that pretty much all of the cymbals that you've made for me, or that I've gotten from you, are all perfect in that idiom that they can be used in a small group setting and in a big band setting. It's just a matter of sound, what the gig is what the gig is what the gig is asking me to provide. Like the very first cymbal that you made for me, which is still the cymbal that I take out to gigs all the time, or it will be in the bag, just that I have available, is the Mel Lewis inspired 21-inch ride cymbal that you've made for me. And I was using that. I can use that for pretty much everything. Like lately, I've been using it for all of it. But for example, there is a 22-inch Prism ride that you made for me, which is recorded on the new album that was just released a couple months ago of mine and Josh Nelson, which has a more of a complex old K vibe, which I feel was nicer for that setting, because the Mel Lewis ride is like very projecting, and it's very present. Specifically in the studio, it was very present. Like I recorded with it, and the sound engineer was like, "Whoa, this is like right in my face," Not much to me, because from a player's perspective, it's very different than how it's being picked up in through the mics, right? So that ride cymbal, the 22-inch ride cymbal, is a little bit more mellow, but it can be played in a very small like piano dynamic. And then once I have to hit it and go like double forte, it can do that just as well. So it's now it's just a matter of like, what do I think, what kind of sound is best for the gig. And then I mainly start with thinking about like, what is going to be my main ride cymbal for this gig. And now I have like three ride cymbals that are with rivets that I can use as a main ride. And then there is this I think it's the Labyrinth Brilliant. It's a 20-inch that you made once, that Jeff Clapp played on one time. And I was like, what's that? I want it. And you brought it to a drum show. I think it's the Chicago drum show. And it didn't get sold. And I was like, yeah, I'll happily take that. And I'll be able to use that as a main ride too, because it's a 20 without rivets. I actually recently did that for a session, and it turned out great. It really is kind of, am I going for more traditional or more for a complex vibe? That's the question that I have to ask myself for a gig that I'm doing. And then usually what I like to do when I've decided on the main ride, then I'll go, what kind of left side ride do I want to have? Like, do I go with the 19-inch crash ride, that I have, that was a Reverie prototype, or like the cymbal that I got together with the Mel Lewis ride, which was a 20-inch, and you call that signature back in those days, which is also still, I used that one for a Terry Gibbs tribute concert a couple months back, where I just had to go like full on Mel Lewis. And the guy who was playing vibes with us, his name is Chuck Red, and he's a drummer himself too. And he came over and he goes, "What are those cymbals that you're using?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's Timothy Roberts. He's a custom cymbal maker." And he goes, "Oh, I have to look this guy up because
Oh, nice.
this is the vibe. This is what I need." I'm like, "Yeah,
Awesome.
just look him up." And it worked out really, really great, because I mean, that the Terry Gibbs stuff, that's, Mel Lewis wise, there is, and this might be a hot take, but Mel maybe got famous because of the Terry Gibbs band, because those are probably some of the best big band recordings ever made. So they go for that vibe and that sound, because if you're doing something else entirely, then it just does not fit.
Right.
So from a musical perspective, the cymbals have to enhance what I want to do musically. And with a gig like a Terry Gibbs gig, that's like, I've done that 3 or 4 times now, which is like a dream, to play all of those big bands arrangements of the greatest West Coast guys. And then with the big band that I lead together with Josh Nelson, which has cats who've played with almost any big band in LA that you can think of between now and, like, I don't know, 1960, pretty much.
Wow.
Like between Les Brown and Gordon Goodwin now, from the West Coast perspective, pretty much. So those cats, they know it when the sound is not right,
Right.
So, and with the cymbals that you've made, and the cymbals that I've been playing of yours, I really have the feeling that my musical sensibilities are being enhanced by the cymbals. And there are also plenty of non-drummers who come over to me and they go like, "What is that cymbal that you're playing?" That's great. Because
that's awesome.
It has to work together with the sound of the band. It has to work together with the sound of the bass player. Mel Lewis had a ride cymbal pretty much for almost every bass player that he played with. Like, he had a ride cymbal for Richard Davis, and then he had a different ride cymbal for Rufus Reid and for George Mraz, and I believe also for Dennis Irwin. Yeah. So all of those cats who played with that big band, because different sensibilities.
That brings up a good point of I think when we talk about like industry trends and the cymbal sounds that are popular nowadays versus throughout the decades, I run across a mentality where drummers tend to kind of they tend to just focus on what they hear and how they want it to sound with their kit. But what you're saying is like there's a communal aspect. There's this aspect of needing to include the other people that you play in, or at least like the music that you do, into your thought process with how you pick your instruments. And it sounds like a no-brainer, and a lot of people do know this, but sometimes that gets lost. Like, what do you think about? Maybe the question could be like, what do you think about where music is today, and maybe the fractured kind of state of like sounds, and people are hopping on trends versus the mindset you come to it with, which seems to be very rooted in the history of the music, and rooted in the greats that did this before us, and the people that paved the way. So what, maybe flesh out some of your thoughts in that regard.
Yeah. I'm not a guy who is keeping tabs on trends. That's one thing for sure. I think, I mean, the necessities that are, the necessities that are being demanded for specifically jazz music nowadays, is, I mean, it's vastly different than what was demanded in the 60s, for example. And I think that the entire process now is way more accessible as well, because when cats wanted to have a cymbal and they went to the Zildjian factory, they heard like a gazillion old Ks, and some of them were great, and some of them were not that great, and some of them were not even like in a specific, like for example, 22-inch type of vibe. They were like 22 and a quarter, or 21 inch and three quarters, right? So it was very. I think the process right now uh, that you're doing, and what the other boutique people are doing, is that it's becoming very specific to and very individualistic, but in a very cool way that you can adjust to a specific drummer's needs. Whereas back in the 60s, that was not necessarily possible. And then cymbal brands started to do that, with making prototypes, and they're able to to give drummers what they want to, more and more throughout the years. I think a sound, though, that has popped up a lot in the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, is more that darker, more growly type of sound.
Yes.
Which is cool. Like, the younger drummers, like Marcus Gilmore and Justin Brown, that they're using darker, very washy type of ride cymbals, crash rides, whatever you want to call it, which is great. Like, I love their playing a lot. But I think that's definitely a different vibe to what the drummers, even the drummers that are like the who are becoming the statesmen of the current day and age, like, players and teachers such as like John Riley, Adam Nussbaum, Jeff Hamilton, Peter Erskine, Ed Soph, Joe LaBarbera. I think that their drum sound was a little bit more, or their cymbal sound was a little bit more like defined and less washy than what the younger guys are doing right now.
Do you think that's because of the technology of recording and how it's easier to capture clarity in something that's a little bit more wild? Like, do you think it could be a consequence of the technology, or is it more the sound drummers are hearing now, or where do you think that like comes from?
Maybe it could be technology, but all those guys that I mentioned, they come from a big band background.
That's true.
And that was like, those guys, they went on the road. They didn't even finish school, or most of them didn't finish school. They went on the road. Like, Jeff went on the Tommy Dorsey band, and then he went back to Indiana University, and then he went on to the Woody Herman band. Peter was 18 when he went on the road with Kenton, and Kenton had these like ginormous 24-inch ride cymbals that he took along on tour, and Peter had to play those, so
yeah.
I
like
think
it got in them at an early age, and then also the constraints and the requirements and needs of a big band that maybe got implanted in them at a formidable age, or where they were really developing their sound.
And I think, I don't know for sure, but like almost every drummer nowadays still plays like, big band or jazz band in high school, but the tradition is less present nowadays. Like, it's not really it's not really a criterion anymore for drummers to be clear, to have like a clear-ish sound to play in a large ensemble, because certain drummers, they don't like it, they don't want to do it. I get that. Like, while I was an undergrad, there were plenty of guys that were like, I don't like play big band. I'll just do the small group thing. And they went like fully into the small group thing, and they were using cymbals that, if you would use those in a big band setting, washy, low, not as much like, well, with a certain kind of stick definition, but not what you have to have for a big band. Those cymbals would drown out, like the lead trumpet would go like, where's that quarter note? If a lead trumpet player or like a baritone saxophone player all the way on the other side can't hear the quarter note or even the hi-hat, they're pretty much screwed. So I think just the lack of of that tradition nowadays, and that there are pretty much like not as many big bands been on the road or big band gigs as they used to be. I think that's a very, very that has had a very big influence on where drummers are going with their cymbal sounds.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think also it almost seems too like the dark, washy, growly, trashy thing, which I'd make cymbals like that. And I think we're what we're not saying is that that's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's like, it's just a different sound.
It's just a musical taste.
It's just a choice. It's a color, and all the colors belong.
Right.
I think that there can be like almost like a retconning of when people think of jazz sounds, because they haven't checked out Shelly Manne, they haven't checked out Mel Lewis, they haven't checked out big bands, and they might kind of think, oh, well, the jazzy sound is this dark, growly, washy thing, and it's if you go back and you really listen to like Art Blakey, Tony Williams, they're not playing thin cymbals.
Yeah, right.
They're really not. They're playing like medium heavy, sometimes like really heavy cymbals, and it's just the touch that they have, and it's the recording technology that existed in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, all that those cymbals might have translated, like they might have been darker, but it's almost like we think, oh yeah, the dark trashy thing is the classic jazz sound, but I don't think it is. There might, Tony played some thinner stuff in his early years with Miles, from what I can gather.
Yeah.
And the stories I've heard is like he was kind of playing some thinner stuff in that early years, but then he transitioned pretty fast into some different stuff. And it's like, it makes total sense. If a cymbal holds together more, then you can do everything with it. You could always play a cymbal quieter if it's got a lot of cut and ping and clarity and projection. You can always play it quieter with your technique.
Yeah.
But then when you need to pull more sound out of it to drive a band or to make a certain musical statement, it has that ability to. Whereas these thinner, washier things, that there really is a clear cap to what they can do, and they're just not going to perform as well. As one of my kind of secret, not so secret goals with being an independent cymbalsmith is to try to hip people to these sounds that people that are into the handmade cymbal thing might not gravitate towards, like brighter cymbals, slightly brighter, slightly cleaner. You can have a clean-ish cymbal like that Mel Lewis that I made for you. There's a clarity to it, projection to it, but there's also ways of pulling out that darker, complex kind of sound.
Yeah, right.
Via the way that you play it, and via the stick you use, and the technique, and the room you're in, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like I would personally rather have a cymbal that can make a clear statement, and I have to just pull out a dark, washier, more complex sound, than the opposite, where it's like I have to tape it up a bunch just to get enough clarity to play in certain bands.
Right. Yeah. I'm not a fan of taping cymbals. I like call me a purist, but when I get a cymbal, I want to play the cymbal how it is. And that's just how it's supposed to be, I think. Even though that there are plenty of people who, they tape cymbals, and it's about the sound that they want to get from that cymbal, but then a little bit more control. It's all good. But I like to just play the cymbal as it is, and and that to attest to that fact of the Mel Lewis inspired ride that you made. It's pretty much like a perfect mixture of actually like a bunch of different worlds, because the criteria that I got from an interview from Mel, what he was searching for in a cymbal, was that it needed to have high frequencies and low frequencies, but no mids. So like a high projection with a good thick sound, but with a lower growl behind it, or a lower, like, the lower frequency. And this cymbal definitely has that for sure. And it's funny, like I'm thinking back to something that you said beforehand. I once sat down with Jeff Hamilton at his house, and he has a ride cymbal that was given to him from Mel, and it's a 22-inch, and it's an old K, and he said, like, go and sit down and play it. So I played it. Didn't sound like anything what Mel would play. And then Jeff went like, yeah, but Mel played ride cymbals that sounded significantly different from where you're sitting from behind the kit. But then when you're on the other end of the kit, it sounds like, that sound. And I took that little piece of information for like 50%, because Mel said that cymbals are not supposed to sound good from where you're sitting, but they have to be sounding good for everybody else.
That's very interesting. I didn't know he said that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, well, I need to have fun playing my cymbals too. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So with all due respect.
Right. It's an interesting perspective, and it is like I smile because it's like, if I had a stated goal, it's like, make cymbals that can inspire you and do the job, and those are not, those it's actually rather difficult to kind of have both of those things in a cymbal. Like a lot of times, a cymbal that's pretty boring to you is perfect for the gig, and vice versa. Like if a cymbal's perfect for you, it's like mush to everybody else.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it has to do with level of like what are the musical sensibilities that you're getting, what your ear is saying too. Because the very first time that I brought that thing out on a big band gig, it was the first gig that I did with the Mel Lewis inspired ride cymbal. And I had the 20-inch signature ride cymbal and that one. And the signature ride cymbal was like immediately accepted by my ears. And the 21-inch was, it sounded a little different to my ears than from the videos that you sent me. But on the videos, it was like amazing,
Yeah.
And then I made a video myself, and I recorded, the ride cymbal a couple of times, and I was like, how is this possible that it's sounding a little bit more sharp, not frequency wise, but like just sound sensibility wise to my ear, while in just the plain phone recording that the cymbal sounds awesome. And then I started playing it for 3-4 weeks, and it mellowed out a little bit, and that sharpness was taken off, and I was like, yeah, this is exactly where it needs to be. So it always is it always is also like a learning curve of like how to play a cymbal, right? Like if you get a new cymbal, you have to get to know it, and you have to get to know what it's capable of, and what the sensibilities are, how it responds with lighter dynamics versus louder dynamics. So it was just like a process of really getting to know it, and that it would slowly start to get more and more comfortable, for lack of better word of saying it, but more comfortable in my ear, so it's a whole different thing. I knew that it was great. Like I'm not exactly like what we were talking about Hans, where Hans goes like after two hits, and he knows exactly like, yep, that's what it is. But it's purely Hans, because Hans has been working with the exact same cymbal set for, I don't know, like years,
Yeah, I think it's decades. Yeah.
Yeah. He had like the same set of cymbals, I don't know, since he started with the WDR. And then I went to go visit a rehearsal, I think it was. And I was like, "You have new cymbals?" And when Hans Decker has new cymbals, it's kind of like, what? And and he said, "Yeah, I found this set of a guy that had 70s old Ks in a set, and it was like a 20, an 18 or a 19, and then another 18 crash. But he did not use the crash, and it sounded great, but it was almost the exact same sound that he was using from the other cymbal set."
Wow.
So when
Wow.
to me it's like when he shifts into a new cymbal, it's kind of like, whoa, like what's happening? Call the New York Times.
Yeah. Wow.
So I know from Hans that when he plays something, he like, I know that conviction, because he knows exactly for what works for him. I know that to a certain degree, but I know it, but I need a little bit of a learning. I have a little bit of a learning curve, like
Do you
I have a
think
couple of
that's
weeks.
could that be that Hans, because I don't know how many gigs he does outside WDR. Is it that like he's really just focused on that one band and he knows what that one band, and he kind of has, yeah, he has all the information he needs to know what cymbal he needs, or maybe you're finding yourself in different scenarios and maybe the kind of big band music you're playing is more diverse. This is a totally ignorant question, but could it be that you need time to explore, to check it out in different situations?
Yeah, partly. It hasn't happened with a lot of ride cymbals, to be honest, because the Mel Lewis inspired ride cymbal, because we went for a specific sound that Mel was playing in like the late 50s, early 60s, where he was playing that ride cymbal that had the chunks taken out of it, and
Yeah.
he did that himself. He cut those chunks out of, and that's just a very, very, very specific sound that I had in my ears for years. And
Mm.
then I got the cymbal, your cymbal, in my hands, and I started playing it, and my ears were saying like, yeah, that's not it, but my gut feeling was like, no, this is it, I just need to keep playing it. And then it was just a matter of like that, like
Interesting.
just finished it, like maybe like a week or a week and a half before that, and that the cymbal really needed to settle. And then when you start to play a cymbal, it generally mellows out, over the course of years, and it brittles more. And that's what the cool thing is about the old Ks, is that you have that brittle sound, and like the sound that we all admire and love. Um, I think for me, it is maybe like a different approach that I maybe have in comparison to Hans. I'm not sure how much he gigs outside of the WDR. Truth be told, I know that that he does. If he gets called for stuff outside of the band, then he does what he loves to do. And if the music is really beautiful, what what is in line with his musical aspirations. Same for me, but I don't have a radio big band gig, so
Mm.
um, I think I might have to maybe like adjust a little bit. I have to adjust my sound for certain situations a little bit more, because
Yeah.
of just because of the fact that I'm playing in more different playing situations, and specifically also studio stuff. Like that's a whole different world, because you need different kits, you need different snares, you need different cymbals, dry, high pitched, low pitched, rivets, no rivets, so that's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And
Watching you work a few years ago in LA at that session was very, very interesting. Like because it's just kind of, it feels a little bit like a head trip to be like, yes, jazz is in a lot of ways improvisational, and there's that aspect to it. But in the studio, you guys were really crafting what you were trying to say. It wasn't just like this haphazard, like, all right, hit record, we'll play it, and then move on. It was like there was which watching you work and do that, and then in the middle of those pieces be exploring and creating. And I'd imagine as someone who's not near the level drummer you are, or I'm a Cymbalsmith now. I'm not much of a drummer, I don't feel like, but
you're still a great drummer, man.
I get to play. I get to work on my ride hand every day because I'm testing cymbals.
Yeah.
But to me, that it was amazing to watch, because it's like being able to hold those two things of really, really trying to make a specific statement and fine tune the sound that's there, and then also be able to tap into that creative side, and then being able to do that at the same time. Like that's why studio work for me has always felt like this. I've always really respected guys that can do the studio thing really well for that reason, because there's a whole different skill set involved.
That's true, and I admire those guys too. And that recording session that you saw, that was like an actual like jazz, more creative recording, versus like if you go into the studio with a J.R. Robinson or a Bernie Dressel or Novak, and you need a specific sound for like a movie score or a jingle. That's a whole different ballgame, because that's where you have to provide a sound that's being asked of you, rather than that session that we did is I can bring my sound to that recording session. And I like that's purely just, I have the freedom to do whatever I want. So that's a very, very big difference with people who are in the studio like all the time, and they just have to be able to bring the sound that whatever the contractor or conductor or artist is asking, you have to provide that. And there's a creative process in that too, because that's the fun part. That's the challenging part about that, is like, okay, they want to go for a specific type of sound. How am I going to provide that?
You have options, and you've got to make the right choice.
Right. What is my ear saying? And maybe their ears are saying something different. Right. So what I feel like what we're talking about is really like a more live setting versus like the studio setting. And then, at the same time, those cymbals that you made for Hans, which are gorgeous cymbals, those need to be also really good for their live stream recordings, because pretty much everything that they do is recorded too.
Right.
So, it goes on television, it goes on YouTube, it goes on the radio. So, but it's primarily also live recording, which is also, again, a little different than like actual studio recording. But yeah, I mean, those cymbals that you made for him, and that he picked out, I think are like very much, not sound wise, but like sensibility wise, are like very much in line with what I personally also am seeking in a cymbal.
Yeah, and what I made for him also, you said this thing earlier about the mid range being kind of clear, and I seek that in a lot of my cymbals. I'm trying to find that sound where it's like you have this big stretch and this big spread between the lows and the highs,
Yeah.
so that stuff doesn't. And the middle, when the middle is full, it tends to kind of just make everything feel a little mushy and a little bit ill-defined and not clear. And that's what I've noticed in some of the cymbals that I've made. The ones that don't really quite make it to the batches that end up getting reworked are usually ones where there's just too much mid-range there.
Right.
And the mid-range, the thing about the mid-range though, is that it can also help a cymbal project. So I've been coming to this place of realizing, yes, there's certain parts of the mid-range of the cymbal that do need to be kind of clear or lower in the mix, but there's other parts of it too that are going to be that can help a cymbal sound big, which might be desirable depending on the kind of sound you're going for. And so it like music, it's very hard to talk about and actually define terms and really zone in on, what we're actually hearing. Obviously sound is very subjective and whatnot, but I've been finding that a lot lately. Just I'll make two cymbals in nearly an identical way, and one has this very big boisterous kind of sound, and the other one, it's like the same weight, the same basic shape, the same kind of bell construction, and the other one just feels very feels much more clear. And it's like the body on the one is just massive, and the other one feels a little bit tighter and more like squished a little bit. It's like a sharper sound rather than like a rounder sound. And it can be a mysterious thing. Like I have some ways of addressing those things, but it can be kind of mysterious depending on which one, how they come out. So, that's always the challenge with the commissions. And I remember didn't we talk about possibly actually scooping that Mel Lewis cymbal to?
Yeah, we did talk about it, and it's definitely also still something on my wish list.
yeah, it's on mine too, actually.
Yeah, because you did not that long ago. You had like a couple cymbals that had like a little chunk out of it, like a more oval chunk.
Yes. Yep.
And I thought, like, ooh, now we're talking.
I have, and it's actually amazing what that does. It's like, I would imagine that the Mel Lewis before that chunk, a much more resonating kind of sound was coming from it, and that chunk is just, it's taking that perfectly circular instrument and it's disrupted it so that it just can't ring out as much, which is going to lead to like a clearer stick, and in a way it can kind of help scoop out that mid range too. And so I've been for years now working on this, like, chunk, purposely cutting chunks out of cymbals, because it really does a massive amount of the sound.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There are people like previously we were talking a little bit about Paul Motion. Paul Motion would play cracked cymbals, like that. There were like cracks, like, throughout a little bit in the middle of the cymbal. And an old teacher of mine from Holland, his main right cymbal for years was cracked, and you could literally see like the cymbal doing this. That the curve was like, this, and then the crack was going up, but it was a fantastic sounding cymbal.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think what Mel said about it was it's in line with what you said, but I think it just dried the cymbal up. And when you hear that cymbal, there are a couple recordings where the cymbal is really clear in the mix, clearer than other recordings, because I mean it is already very clear in the mix, but like when you hear it just by itself, and you hear that it is a little bit of a drier, more darker, brittle sound that it had. And I think what he said at first in also an interview that was released was exactly that it had a little bit too much ring to it, and he just started cutting, and that fixed it. And then he played it for a good while, but then the cymbal started to crack, so he had to move over to a different cymbal. But he had that cymbal for his entire career, even though that he did not play on it. And when he passed, Danny Gottlieb received it. And I know that Zildjian made a couple copies of the cymbal with the chunks out of it.
And I wonder where those are.
Yeah, well, I think Gottlieb has a few, but I have no idea where the original is. I don't know if Gottlieb still has the actual cymbal. He used to. There's a YouTube video of him playing the cymbal for like
Yep.
a zillion video.
I
So
studied that one.
yeah,
That was a big part of the study for that sound, was trying to
yeah,
get, looking at that video from Gottlieb.
yeah. And I mean, I've gotten compliments from drummers and non-drummers, like good or a fellow Mel Lewis geek, probably like even bigger than me, because he made his doctoral thesis about Mel, and he wrote the book about Mel. Chris Smith.
Okay, yeah.
He heard the cymbal on like an Instagram thing, and he was like, "Yep, that's the sound
Wow.
right there." And then on a different thingy that I posted, David Sagerton from New Jersey, a great cymbal maker himself too. He was like, "Damn, that ride cymbal, that's the Mel Lewis one right there."
Yeah. Yeah. Sagerton, he makes good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's cool. The state we're in cymbals, my little pitch for just looking into, for anyone to like look into independent cymbalsmiths is that, we everyone talks about the old K sound, and we act as if it's this magical, mystical thing. In some ways it is, but the way that they were making them back then, it wasn't drummers making the cymbals. It was just workers, it was just people that they had hired. They didn't necessarily have an ear for tuning a cymbal. And so a lot of the magic is, to me, is, I think most of it, again, you said hot take. This is my hot take moment. I think most of it is we're hearing the drummers we loved play those cymbals.
oh yeah,
And we're kind of translating some of the value of that to the cymbal itself, and not keeping as much of it where it should be, which is the actual player.
yeah. That's an excellent point, because it's the hands at the end of the day that make the sound. It's Tony who
Yes.
makes the sound, or Mel, or Elvin, or Philly Joe.
Exactly.
It's the hands
And we
that are talking.
exactly, and that sound is in the lexicon of music. It's in our heads, and it's what we look for. And my little pitch is that, when we talk about cymbals being made in the same method of hand hammering, that's being done today. But like most of the independent guys, we're all drummers to some level or degree. We actually have like a sensibility for music and an ear for what we're trying to create. And so, you'll hear some great drummers talk about how 90% of the old Ks were dogs. They just sounded terrible, but there's 10% that sounded like magic, but you had to sort through a ton. And I think that ratio is a lot smaller with guys making them today in the same old world method, because there is an actual, there's an aim and it comes from someone who plays music, or at least is a lover of music. And I fancied myself a drummer at one point, and thought, I want to move to New York and really do the thing. And my path was different, but I spent a ton of time developing my ears.
Yeah.
And just listening and playing along to all my favorite drummers, and so that sound got in my head. And ever since I started making, that's what I've been aiming at, is really trying to like capture that sound and all the variation of sounds. And then now it's in a place where, with bringing on some artists, it's like I'm now, it's very cool for me now to get in the minds of other drummers that have other life experiences and other skill sets and other focuses with the kind of music they love, and getting into those different mindsets. Like we mentioned Paul Motion. I've been working on a Paul Motion project with the cymbal sounds and these incredibly pingy, bright, loud, like loud stick definition, bright cymbals. And like, what would that look like to take that sound and kind of modernize it for the, kind of get it closer into the range of what drummers are wanting today typically, but it would be a deviation from that, and maybe like a different color option that people would then have access to. That kind of stuff is just unendingly inspiring for me. And so yeah, little plug for, like, if you love the old K sound, like there's a bunch of guys making cymbals in the same way now. and they're drummers. So you're going to get a better shot at finding it, you know?
Yeah. Cause I mean, you, and Sagerton, Skretus, you guys are, I'm not sure, is Borba a drummer too?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Borba's a drummer. Him and I talk about, Brian Blade all the time, and
Yeah.
I've talked about Bill Stewart and you know, just having that sound in our heads, you know, like, yeah, it's awesome, you know. Yeah, I love it. I mean, Craig Lortzen, I mean, he's
Greg.
you know, he's a phenomenal drummer himself. I mean, like, you hear him play, his touch is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, Matt Nolan, you know, there's all the guys, Jesse Simpson, obviously, you know.
Jesse is a freakishly great musician.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the cymbals that he makes are, you know, it's a side hustle for him because he plays drums really good, and
Yeah.
he's a really good piano player. And I'm like, oh God, you're one of those people. Okay, it's not fair.
Very talented in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. But
And he
yeah,
seems to be someone who really, he makes cymbals in that same, in his own way, but in that, with that same pursuit of like gig friendly cymbals, because he just makes what he would play, and he's a prolific gigging drummer and pianist. So he's making from that perspective. And I've played, you know, and to be really honest, I've played some Jesse Simpson cymbals that my taste, when I sit behind them, I'm like, I don't really think. But because of what I know as a cymbalsmith, I'm like, that would sound amazing though on the gig. Like if you put it in a certain room with a certain band, or even if I had someone else play it and I stepped out in front, I would love it.
yeah,
You know, and that goes to show like a real understanding for what it is that we're trying to do with these instruments. You know,
I think that's also the beauty of it. At the same time, where like Jesse is a little bit. I think he really goes for like a certain sound and a certain vibe with his cymbals, and that when you buy a cymbal or when you get a cymbal of Jesse, it's like you get what his what his vibe is. Like he has created a certain sound, which is very reminiscent to like old K's and that kind of stuff, more on the thinner side and more complex sounding, which is great. I've played a few of them. I've had a 19-inch crash ride of his that I sadly sold, which I never should have done.
the one that got away.
Yeah, the one that got away. But I still have two lying around over here in the room, and they sound really good. But it's a very specific sound, and it's great. You know, it's great in its own right. And then you have that too, but I think more what you're doing is that you're really diversifying, and you're always searching for new sounds in like the broadest perspective of things, for like modern stuff, but also traditional stuff, regarding weights, regarding patina or no patina. And then I think Sagerton has his own thing too, and then Manny has his own thing. So it's really like that all, even though that, you know, that all four of you guys, I don't think that Jesse does commissions, but that all aside from Jesse, that the three of you guys get commissions, and people go like, oh yeah, we want to have a certain thing, but then still the cymbal has like your fingerprint on it. And I think that's really cool. That makes it also really beautiful, process wise. And for me, getting back to the Mel Lewis cymbal, like when I approached you for the Mel Lewis cymbal, I did that very consciously because I was perusing around. Like this was, when was this? I'm forgetting if it was 22 or 21 when I approached you, but I was like not scouring, but I was really trying to find like a person who could do the thing that I was looking for, and I was. I think this was also back in the day that Nicky Moon was also still active, but it was like around the time when all you guys were like starting, making headway, even though that you've been doing it already for like 10 years, but like it's really started to go somewhere and that it started to flourish. And then there was I can't remember what the actual video was, but there was this one cymbal that you put on Instagram like several years back, and I was like, "Yep, you're the guy." And and then I hit you up, and I asked you like if you were doing commissions, and you just started doing it.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, it was really like it was really a conscious decision of like a meet and greet of like my musical sensibilities and you being able to provide, and we didn't know each other at all,
right?
But it was like that post that I saw, that I can't remember for the life of me what it exactly was, but that symbol. But I was like, yep, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. And this is the dude. And you're so
I love that it's kind of come around, and now we're here doing this, and super excited to see like what comes of all this and like what we're going to make, because there's going to be a collaborative element to this process of trying out the cutout version of the Mel Lewis, trying all these things and continuing the search, because I mean, there isn't, my opinion is that there isn't really a holy grail, doesn't really exist, that sound, because we're always changing, our sensibilities are changing, our ears are changing as time goes on, but the search is really where it's at. Like we're always looking to expand and develop. So that's where I feel super excited about this, and really grateful that someone of your caliber wants to play my instruments. I mean, I still feel it feels a little odd still that I get to make cymbals that drummers play in music, and they get recorded and they get put on records and they're toured with. It's just, it feels a little bit surreal at times for me. But I love it,
the feeling, the feeling is mutual in the sense of that, I'm very grateful for like the stuff that you've made for me, and I'm very grateful for our relationship. So, the feeling is completely mutual, and you got to start getting adjusted to that feeling that you're going to hear your cymbals on records.
yeah, I got to get used to that. It's cool. I mean, it helps me. It is very interesting to hear something recorded, and almost every time I'm like, wait, that I made that, like that, because I'm not hearing the cymbal when I make it. I hear it in this very specific context, and my recording equipment is very basic and not meant to be flashy at all. And then to hear how it can translate through a professional recording studio when it's mixed a little bit and mastered, is just, it's like, whoa, okay, now I'm starting to see the possibilities,
Yeah.
And I always tell people too, like, we don't do any kind of coloration, obviously, because I'm trying to as accurately as possible present the cymbal. And it's going to get colored through all the different devices and the gear that it goes through just naturally. And depending on how we listen to it, if it's headphones or through a phone or really nice studio monitors, it's going to give you a different sense of what the cymbal actually sounds like. You don't know until you have it in front of you and you're playing it. And then, like you were saying, even the step further is you don't really know until you've taken it to some gigs and let it, sat with it for a little bit, ruminate on it, let it develop, let it mellow out, like you're saying, and play it in different rooms. And then you make your judgment as to, is this the cymbal for me? It's the process. So
yeah. I think that's a really great way of saying that. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time. And we're going to have some information on some of the cymbals that you own and I actually have the clips from when I was in LA. I took some phone clips of tapping on them or whatnot, but we'll maybe get a little rundown of what you have and post that up. But
Yeah,
for everyone who's
like a full, now I have like a full full.
With that crash, that 16-inch crash that you just got, it's
And that's right there. You can't see it, but it's oh no, you can't. It's hovering.
Hovering above. Yes.
The 20-inch you might be able to see, but that 20-inch that comes out of the Hans batch that I batched.
Yeah.
With the little chip in
the bell.
Yep.
That one, I really love that one. I was wanting to keep it for myself, but then when you were like, "That's the sound," I was like, "Yeah, it's got to go to Kevin." So,
yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for letting me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because it's literally my new favorite left. Because it's great. It fits perfectly with that thing right there, the Melus vibe. Because it's in that same vibe. Like Hans and I've known Hans since I was 17. Like the first time that I went to the WDR, I took the train to Cologne from my little hometown in Holland. I took the train and went to go see a rehearsal with the big bands, and Joe Lovano was on saxophone, and that was maybe like one of my first experiences with a top world class orchestra, to see that from this close.
Wow. Yeah.
And we just immediately connected over, because I said to him, like, is Mel Lewis like your guy? Like, and he goes, yep, Mel Lewis is my guy, because that's the way how you can make a band sound the best. So
amazing.
So that's and we've corresponded now over the last couple of months. Like I sent him an email and saying, like, man, like I've heard like a couple videos of the new cymbals in the mix with the band, and that it sounds really, really beautiful. And he went, man, all the credits to Tim, because he deserves it. And it was funny that he mentioned this. He was saying also, like, I have to get adjusted to it a little bit. It's the same thing.
Wow.
So even though that he had that he had this conviction of like yes, no, yes. I guess it's a similar process.
Right. And I love that. I actually think there's something very cool about having to, like the fact that it doesn't just immediately fit like a glove. It's like, you did say like you don't want the cymbal to play you want to play the cymbal. So obviously that's kind of a practical thing about, like, if a cymbal's way too floppy and you can't get a good bounce on it. Obviously the cymbal's playing you, but there is this sense of having to make these approach the instrument that's in front of you, and it might cause you to think differently, which can bring out a different artistic statement. And it can bring it out a different feel or different vibe, which could be, for me at least, I like to sit down at a unique cymbal sound and have to figure it out.
Right.
And then once you settle in, you're like, okay, now I see what's happening here. But like, there's a little bit of like, oh, okay, you gotta shift and adjust and tweak things a little bit before this is going to feel natural.
Yeah.
Super
and
cool.
It's just, and that, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like you provide high quality audio and video for the cymbals that you make, and specifically with the Mel Lewis inspired one. Like, we were talking for like a solid 2 months, because we really wanted to, we wanted to dial it in. And then the only thing that you can't provide is the feel of the cymbal. And that's what's so amazing to me, is that the feel of those cymbals that I have of yours, they feel really, really great, because which is also an important aspect of it. But that, that's also part of the getting to know the cymbal, is like, you need to get a feel literally for the instrument. So that's just an educated guess that I'm making, that Hans might have to get adjusted to it. But that's the thing that was the case for me with the 21 inch.
Yeah.
The rest of the ride cymbals, I think maybe it also has to do with maybe like the type of cymbals that you make, because the rest of the ride cymbals, I did not have that adjusting phase as much with it, like then
I probably was a little bit more comfortable making what I made. That was, the Mel Lewis was a challenge for me. Like, it was a real, like,
right,
diving into something I'm not necessarily used to and having to get hip to something that and a different approach to the metal and all that.
Right. And then, like then I asked you to make a switch knocker, which, like you said you didn't do that as much, but you, no pun intended, but maybe pun intended, you knocked it out of the park. So
yeah, those are tough, man. The switch knockers are tough. It's very easy to make like a China cymbal that's just goes and it's just like very like, oh, but to make something that's got like subtlety to it, it isn't too brash and in your face. It's got warmth to it. It's not the easiest cymbal, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. But this one does it. This one projects and it growls under like a saxophone shout chorus, or when it's like the last chorus of a really hot solo, and you go to the China cymbal, or I go to the China cymbal, and it's just great. It lifts everything up.
Amazing. That's so good to hear. Man, Kevin, thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
More on this for sure. I'm excited about where things are going.
Yeah, me too. This was fun.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.